Welcome to the deep dive. If you're watching the news, planning ahead, which we definitely recommend you do, you know that preparing for power going out is just, well, part of life these days.
Seems like it more and more. Extreme weather, grid issues.
Exactly. And generators, they've kind of shifted from being this luxury item to, frankly, essential emergency gear.
Absolutely.
But, okay, you go to buy one, and right away you hit this fork in the road. It feels like a compromise, doesn't it?
It really does.
Do you go for the loud, heavy, open frame, conventional type, or the quieter, smaller, usually more expensive inverter model?
Right. They both make electricity from fuel, obviously.
But how they make it, the quality of that power, and just using the thing, totally different worlds.
Worlds apart, yeah.
So our mission today, and we've got a stack of sources here looking at the 2025 market, mechanical guides, all that, is to give you, the listener, the real comprehensive breakdown. We want to help you figure out which machine actually makes sense for your garage.
Good goal. It's a common question.
Let's just start with their basic design ideas. The conventional generator. It's built for one thing: raw power, high output, and keeping the price down.
Power and cost, basically.
Yeah. Well, the inverter, it trades some of that raw grunt for precision, for efficiency, and being quiet.
User-friendliness, you could say.
Exactly. And to understand why they're so different, we really need to look under the hood, right? Inside the engine bay.
That's absolutely the place to start. The core difference comes down to this mandatory mechanical thing with every conventional generator. See, when you look at how they turn fuel, like gasoline or propane, into usable electricity, the conventional type uses an internal combustion engine, right? And it's hooked directly to an alternator. Straight conversion to alternating current, AC.
Okay, simple enough. Engine makes spinny thing makes electricity.
Pretty much. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. To get the 60 hertz frequency we need in the U.S. grid, that engine has to run at one constant speed, non-negotiable, usually 3,600 revolutions per minute. 3,600 RPM, all the time.
Oh, wait, all the time, whether I plug in like a huge air conditioner or just my phone.
Exactly. Doesn't matter the load. That engine is screaming along at 3,600 RPM.
Ah, okay. So that's why they're so loud. And guzzle fuel, that constant high speed.
Precisely. That's the root of it. Because it's running flat out, the power output jumps around when the load changes. It just can't react smoothly. You get voltage spikes, dips. The power isn't stable.
Yeah.
And the noise and fuel inefficiency baked into that design. Unavoidable.
Okay. So let's unpack the inverter then, because somehow it gets around needing that constant engine speed. How does it manage that? How does it get stable power and efficiency?
Right. The inverter adds this really crucial kind of sophisticated middle step. It starts the same way, actually. Fuel gets converted into raw, unstable AC power.
Okay.
But then that raw AC immediately goes through a rectifier.
Yeah.
And that converts it into direct current, DC.
Like battery power.
Sort of, yeah. That DC step is key for stabilization. Then, using microprocessors, fancy electronics, it inverts that DC back into stable, really clean AC power, that whole conversion process. It cleans up all the messiness, all the fluctuations from the engine. You get almost perfect sine waves, really smooth power.
Huh. Wait a second. If it's adding 2 extra steps, AC to DC, then DC back to AC, doesn't that waste energy just in the conversion itself? Like, wouldn't that cancel out the fuel savings?
That's a really good question. And it kind of points to how good modern electronics have become. Yes, there's a tiny bit of loss in those conversions. It's unavoidable. But it's absolutely dwarfed, completely overshadowed by the huge fuel savings you get from not running the engine at full speed all the time.
Ah, because the engine can slow down.
Exactly. If you're just running, say, a few lights and a charger, the inverter's engine might throttle way down, maybe 1,500 RPM, something like that. It sips fuel compared to the conventional one stuck at 300 to 600 RPM. Plus, less noise, less wear and tear. That engine freedom is what makes the inverter tech so, revolutionary.
That engine freedom. Yeah, that connects right to the user experience, doesn't it? Okay, let's do the side-by-side comparison then, the practical stuff. Starting with the power quality itself. This is where that dirty power idea comes in.
Yeah, and thinking about, what we plug in these days, this distinction is absolutely critical. We measure it with something called total harmonic distortion, or THD. Inverters, they're known for clean power. They keep that THD typically below 5%, sometimes even lower.
Which means?
Which means it's perfectly safe for basically everything you own. Your laptop, your fancy TV, sensitive medical devices if you need them, charging your phone, no problem, stable voltage.
And the conventional model, that's the dirty power.
That's the one. Conventional units, because of those fluctuations we talked about, their THD can be way higher, sometimes up to 25%.
Wow. 25%.
Yeah. And think about what that means for your electronics. It's like hitting your laptop's sensitive circuits with little mini shocks and surges over and over.
Yeah.
Exactly. Circuit boards, microchips. They hate that kind of instability. You risk weird glitches, data loss, or even permanent damage. Honestly, if you rely on digital gear during an outage, a conventional generator is, well, it's risky.
Okay, point taken. Clean power versus dirty power. Pretty clear winner there for modern life. But let's move beyond the electrical guts. What about just living with one of these things? Noise, portability. Those are huge factors, especially if it's for home backup.
Oh, absolutely huge.
And the inverter really shines here, doesn't it, noise-wise?
Night and day. Inverters typically run between 50 and 60 decibels. That's like a normal conversation. Or maybe a quiet dishwasher.
So you could actually stand next to it and talk.
Pretty much, yeah, without shouting. Plus, they're usually in these enclosed plastic cases. The mechanics are lighter because they don't need that heavy, constant speed setup, so they're lighter overall.
How light are we talking?
Often between, say, 40 and 100 pounds. One person can usually manage the smaller ones. Easy to toss the car for camping or load onto an RV. Very portable.
Okay, contrast that with the conventional beast.
Right. The conventional generator is, well, the opposite. Because it has to run at 3,600 RPM, it just roars. We're talking 70 to 90 decibels.
Yeah.
That's like a gas lawnmower running right next to you. Or heavy street traffic.
Yeah, not pleasant. Definitely annoys the neighbors.
Annoys everyone. Makes it hard to talk, hard to sleep nearby. It's just loud and heavy. They are physically much bigger and bulkier.
Wait.
Easily 100 pounds, going up to 300 pounds, or even more for the big ones. They pretty much all need wheel kits, and often two people to wrestle them into position.
Okay, so quieter, lighter, easier to handle for the inverter. Louder, heavier, bulkier for the conventional. And let's circle back to fuel efficiency. You mentioned the inverter sips fuel because the engine throttles down. The numbers back that up.
Oh yeah, dramatically. The data shows inverters are generally 20 to maybe even 60% more fuel efficient than a comparable conventional model.
60%, that's huge.
It is. Especially when it's running at partial load, which is actually most of the time for typical backup use. The inverter just adjusts and uses less fuel. You can often get, say, 8 to 12 hours of runtime from a fairly small fuel tank on an inverter.
And the conventional?
Because it's always running full tilt. It burns through fuel much faster. You might only get 4 to 8 hours from a similar sized tank. And in a long power outage, those extra hours between needing to refuel, that's a big deal. Less hassle, less worry about running out of gas.
Okay, so far it sounds like inverters are winning on most fronts. Clean power, quiet, portable, efficient. But let's get real. Capacity, power output. If I need to run my central AC, or maybe a well pump, does the inverter even stand a chance? Isn't that where the conventional model is still king?
Ah, yes. This is where the conventional generator, the old school workhorse, still holds its ground. Absolutely. Its design, while maybe a bit crude electronically, is really good at producing a lot of power relatively cheaply. Conventional generators, their typical output range starts around 5,000 watts and can go way up. 10,000, 15,000, even over 20,000 watts for the really big ones. They're built for serious heavy loads.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot more power.
And it's not just the running watts, it's also about surge capacity. Think about starting a big motor, like your refrigerator compressor or that well pump you mentioned.
Right, they draw a lot of power just to get going.
Exactly, a huge initial surge. Because the conventional engine is already spinning at max speed, 3,600 RPM, it has this massive instant reserve power available to handle that surge. Inverters can handle surges too, don't get me wrong, modern ones are pretty good.
Okay.
But the constant high RPM of the conventional unit just muscles through those big motor starts a bit better, especially sustained ones.
Okay, so the inverter does have a ceiling on pure power. Our sources say they usually top out somewhere between, 1,000 and maybe 7,000 watts?
That's the typical range, yeah.
Now, you can parallel them, right? Hook two inverters together to double the power. That's a neat trick.
It is. Paralleling is a great feature, gives you more capacity and redundancy.
Yep.
If one has an issue, the other can still run.
But even two large inverters paralleled might still struggle with, say, a massive construction site needing power tools everywhere, or a really large home wanting everything backed up.
Precisely. There are just some high-demand scenarios where the sheer brute force of a large conventional generator is still the most practical solution.
Which leads us straight into cost. because that inverter technology isn't cheap up front.
No, that's where you get the sticker shock.
Yeah, you look at an inverter, maybe it's $500 for a small one, up to $3,000 or more for a decent-sized one. Then you look at a conventional generator with similar running watts, and it might be $300 to maybe $1,500. Looks like a huge win for conventional on day one.
It does look that way initially, but this is where you have to think about the return on investment, the ROI. It's really critical, that higher upfront cost for the inverter. Our sources suggest that for many users, it actually gets paid back pretty quickly through fuel savings alone.
Really? How quickly?
Well, think about someone who uses it fairly regularly, maybe for RVing every few weekends, or perhaps you live somewhere with frequent shorter power outages. For that kind of use, the fuel efficiency difference we talked about, it can easily save you enough on gasoline to make up that price difference within just 1 or 2 years.
Wow.
I mean, think about it. A 2,000-watt inverter, because it throttles down, it might save you, say, $100, maybe $200 every year in fuel, compared to a conventional 2,000-watt model running full blast whenever it's on.
That adds up fast.
It really does. So, for light to medium users, people who use it somewhat regularly, the inverter often ends up being the better financial choice in the long run, despite the higher initial price.
So the conventional model only really wins on cost if you use it very, very rarely. Like just for that one massive storm every 5 years, and you need huge power for a short time.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
If it's infrequent use and high power demand is the main goal, then yeah, the lower upfront cost of the conventional makes sense. Otherwise, the inverter's total cost of ownership is often lower.
Okay, that really helps define the ideal scenarios for each. The inverter isn't just for camping anymore. It sounds like it's becoming the go-to for typical home backup, especially if you work from home or have sensitive tech.
Absolutely. Inverters are perfect for home emergencies, where you need to keep the fridge running, power your router and laptop, charge phones, maybe run a few lights, all the modern essentials. Plus, yeah, camping, RVing, tailgating, even small businesses needing quiet power for events or food trucks. Perfect fit.
And conversely, the conventional generator. It stays in its lane as the heavy lifter.
Exactly. Construction sites, workshops running big tools like welders, farms with heavy equipment, or maybe that large-scale whole house backup where you need to run a well pump and multiple AC units, and the noise is just a secondary concern.
Raw power is the priority.
Raw power is the non-negotiable. And maybe the slightly dirtier power isn't going to harm a big pump motor the way it might harm your computer. It's about matching the tool to the job.
Okay, but here's where our sources say things get really interesting for 2025. The market is trying to blur these lines a bit, especially with fuel options.
Oh yeah, the fuel flexibility thing is huge now.
We're seeing lots of new models, both inverter and conventional, that support dual fuel, sometimes even tri-fuel. So gasoline, propane, and maybe natural gas hookup.
That's a massive advantage, especially during widespread emergencies when gasoline might be hard to find or stations don't have power to pump it.
Right. Propane tanks are stable, easy to store long term. Natural gas, if you have the hookup, is basically unlimited fuel.
Exactly. It gives you options and reliability when you need it most. So that dual or tri-fuel capability is a feature definitely worth looking for, regardless of whether you lean towards inverter or conventional. It adds a lot of value.
Let's make this concrete. Can we talk about some specific models and prices mentioned in our research, just to give people a real-world anchor?
Good, yeah.
Okay, on the inverter side, you've got benchmarks like the Honda EU2200i. Everyone knows Honda for being super quiet, right? This one's like 47 pounds, really light. But premium price, around $1,100 maybe?
Yeah, Honda's kind of the gold standard for quiet and reliable, but you pay for it.
Or if you want that fuel flexibility we just talked about, something like the Champion 2010-50. It's a dual fuel inverter, pretty popular, maybe around $800. Good value there.
Champion makes some solid dual fuel options, yeah. Good balance of features and price.
Then on the conventional side, the big power units. You mentioned workhorses.
Right. Think like the Generac GP9500E. That one can be tri-fuel, so gas, propane, natural gas. Puts out a hefty 9,500 starting watts. Price maybe around $1,000.
Okay. Or another popular one is the Westinghouse WGN 9500 NED-WO-DF. That's dual fuel, known for handling those big appliance surges well. Similar price range, maybe $900 and $1,000.
Exactly. Those are the kinds of machines that scream, yeah, I can run your whole house, just don't expect me to whisper while I do it.
Okay, perfect. Last big comparison point, maintenance. Because that higher price tag on the inverter, does it mean less hassle later or just different hassle?
Maintenance. It's actually a bit counterintuitive.
How so?
Well, mechanically, the inverter engine often experiences less wear and tear because it's not running at that constant high speed all the time. It varies the speed.
So less stress on the parts.
Generally, yes. You still need to do regular oil changes, check the spark plug, keep it clean, the basics. But the core engine components might last longer.
Okay, that sounds good. What's the catch?
The catch is the electronics. That sophisticated inverter module, the part that does the AC-DC AC conversion. If that fails, well, it's complex. Repairs can be expensive, sometimes requiring specialized technicians or just replacing the whole electronic unit, which can cost a significant chunk of the original generator price.
So less frequent mechanical wear, but potentially a big, expensive electronic failure down the line.
That's the risk, yeah. It might run perfectly for years, but if the electronics go, it's often not a simple fix.
Okay, now the conventional generator maintenance.
That's more straightforward, but also more frequent. Because it's running at 3,600 RPM constantly, it just needs more regular attention. More frequent oil changes are crucial. Spark plugs wear out faster. Air filters need cleaning. It's more like traditional engine upkeep. Predictable, usually not super expensive per instance, but you have to stay on top of it because of the constant high-stress operation.
So it's a trade-off then. Do you prefer constant, predictable, maybe lower-cost mechanical upkeep, or less frequent upkeep, but with the potential risk of a rare but very expensive electronic repair?
That sums it up perfectly. It's a different kind of maintenance calculation.
Okay, so bringing it all together,
Bro.
What's the final verdict? How does someone actually choose?
Well, like we've been saying, it really boils down to your specific priorities and, crucially, calculating your actual wattage needs.
Don't just guess how much power you need.
Please don't guess. Add up the wattage of everything you absolutely need to run simultaneously. Look at both running watts and starting watts for things with motors. That gives you your target.
Right. And then weigh the priorities.
Exactly. If you live somewhere with neighbors close by, or noise is a major concern. If you absolutely need to power sensitive electronics like computers, TVs, medical gear, or if you plan to use it for camping, RVing, where portability and quietness matter, then the precision, the quiet operation, the clean power, and honestly, the long-term fuel efficiency of the inverter make it pretty much essential. It's usually the better fit for most modern home backup or recreational uses. But if your absolute top priority is massive raw power output, you need to run huge loads like big AC units, well pumps, maybe heavy-duty tools on a job site, and you probably won't use it that often, maybe just for major emergencies. Then the lower upfront cost and sheer grunt of the conventional model still make it the practical, powerful choice. Just accept the noise and the dirtier power.
And regardless of type, look for safety features.
Absolutely critical. Built-in carbon monoxide detectors, CO detectors, non-negotiable safety feature on any generator you buy today. Please make sure it has one.
Okay, makes sense.
And maybe here's the final provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Given how important both efficiency and reliability are becoming, and seeing how the market is pushing these dual and tri-fuel options into both inverter and conventional models, maybe you don't have to accept the old limitations quite as starkly anymore. Meaning, look closely at those newer mid to high capacity inverters. They're getting more powerful. And look at some of the smaller or newer conventional models that are adding things like electronic fuel injection or better governors to improve stability and efficiency. These sort of hybrid approaches, or models that borrow the best from both worlds, they're rapidly bridging that gap between pure precision and pure power. It makes the generator landscape in 2025 really interesting, maybe more complex, but ultimately it gives you better options than ever before.